am welcoming back one of my most favorite candidates, Miss Lauren Ashcraft from New York. She's running in District 12. Thank you so much for coming back.
Oh, it's really a homecoming. You were the first person to have me on your podcast, and I don't know if you knew this, but I was sweating profusely because it's live, and I was like, I'm definitely gonna make a fool of myself live in front of everybody. So you made it so comfortable, and thank you also for highlighting grassroots candidates and giving us a voice and helping the movement so much with what you do.
Oh, thank you. I'm glad to always be a dork myself, so that way other people, people say, "Oh, that sounded stupid when I said." I'm like, "Did you hear when I said blah blah blah?" Like, don't worry about it. I don't know if you saw, but did you happen to see your petition?
The last I saw it before a few Zoom calls today, we were at 1,700 signatures, so I should probably check again.
We're at 2,024.
Wow. I'm okay. Good work, Joy.
Yeah. I was like sending it to like Sean King, and I'm like, just do it. You know what I mean? I was like, just everyone share, because, and I said, we need to keep going, even if we met 2,000, because there's a billion burners out there. Andy, if you're watching, please share the campaign there for the signatures in the chat. And for those watching who don't know, do you want to share what you're doing with the gathering the signatures?
Totally. So as one does when one's trying to stop the voice of the progressive movement, Governor Cuomo and also the New York State Board of Elections are considering canceling the primary election for the presidential race in New York State. And my election for Congress in New York's 12th Congressional District is June 23rd. And so are so many state and local races. And there are delegates for Bernie and delegates also for other candidates who are no longer in the race as well. And my election is definitely taking place June 23rd. It's going to be done via mail-in ballot. So this is not a conversation about safety precautions, because those are taken care of. But there's a conversation, which we should hear the answer tomorrow, that the Board of Elections and the governor are considering removing the presidential line from the ballot. And there's really no purpose to this other than to minimize the voice that we have. And yeah, we want as many delegates as we can get, and we want to use our voice to help form the national Democratic platform. And the fact that we are always, time and time again, Pennsylvania too, I know you're in Pennsylvania, so many times, we already know who the nominee is basically going to be by the time the primary gets to us. And the fact that we're being robbed of the voice that we have in terms of delegates as well is something that is just very clearly an attack on our voting rights. So yeah, I see the link got posted. Thank you so much. Tomorrow, they're making a decision to decide whether or not to leave the presidential line on the ballot. And we have about 2,020 signatures. And I know somebody else reached out to me with a petition for 5,000 signatures, and we're combining. So tomorrow morning, we're going to post the final combined unified number. And we're really proud of it. And we're coming together to really stand up for voting rights. It's that simple. The ballot's going to be printed. The election's going to take place. So just let us have a voice in terms of our delegates in the national platform, and we'll be on our merry way.
Absolutely.
Anyway, sign that, please.
Yeah. Like, you really want to piss people off and keep them home during the general? Take away their primary vote too. See how well that worked. Yeah. Because as someone who has dedicated my life to this campaign, you're not going to fucking tell me that I can't vote. Like,
Yeah.
I will write him in again if I have to, because, and then I think about all the people in New York who gave just as much as I did and went to another state and things like that. They deserve a right to vote. Like, they put in the work. We all deserve to solidify that. So, well, first off, how are you going to get the signatures to Cuomo? Is he for sure going to know we get this?
Yeah, so we've actually been sending updates along the way. So last week we sent 1,500 signatures. We also mailed printed versions. Like, there's no way that his office doesn't know. We emailed as well. So we've been very thorough. They definitely know this exists. I know that other groups like NY-PAN have also written letters and gotten signatures. There is that separate petition that we're combining with ours that have 5,000 signatures. So I mean, they know that we're putting up a fight and we're not going anywhere. And frankly, I also believe that Bernie Sanders' campaign should sue if the decision is to remove the line, because we need our voting rights to be protected. The election's going to take place, just as I was saying, and it would just be ridiculous to deprive us of having our voice. So, oh, and I see that people are signing right now, so thank you.
That's awesome. Yeah, and the thing is, like, Bernie already dropped because he was scared about more people getting sick, because Joe's the one that kept saying go to the polls. So now that Bernie dropped, you're still saying we can't vote for him even after he did you that courtesy. That's what gets me. I hope that Bernie would say, you know what, this is legally, this is wrong, and stand up for us. I just don't know. And it's hurtful to even think I don't know. But I mean, I appreciate you so much for taking this on, and for everyone else who signed. I mean, this is so important. And Cuomo is not a good person, but I'm trying to be hopeful. There is a movement for this to happen. So, hopefully, I digress a little, but what if, what was your thought now that people are like, oh, Cuomo, let's give him the nom instead of Biden and stuff? Despite the fact that he's never campaigned, has no delegates, let's just insert him.
No,
New Yorker.
Oh, so I mean, we hear it all the time, because like whenever I call like my family back in Pennsylvania, or talk to friends in West Virginia, it's like, oh, your governor is really taking the lead on fighting coronavirus. And it's like, yeah, also while cutting Medicaid. And there's so many other things that I wholeheartedly disagree with. We have failed to cancel rent. New York's 12th Congressional District is over 70% renters, and we don't have any help right now. We all know that $1,200 doesn't go very far, and especially, in the coastal cities, I know that our salaries are inflated so that we can barely pay our rent, and most of that money goes towards rent anyway. And so whenever there's like a $75,000 cutoff for benefits, that's not very much in New York's 12th Congressional District. And I used to live in a very cockroach-infested first-floor apartment right next to the garbage station in a very old building that leaked all the time for $2,000 a month. And I was paying way more than I should have to do that. And I just think about how we're neglected in federal policy, and I don't see the representatives for New York City federally fighting for us. I know I was on a call with Representative Maloney last week, and she was saying what a success the relief has been. And I take great offense to that, because I personally didn't get the full $1,200. And I know firsthand through calling my district and my neighbors that we're all really struggling here. And people, on top of not being able to go to work, might not even have jobs on the other side of this. So it's not that people really even have answers as to where that money would come from if they need to pay rent eventually. So I know in our first discussion ever, you had asked if I support a federal jobs guarantee, and I just want to circle back to that to say yes, wholeheartedly yes, because on the other end of this crisis, we need something that guarantees people a paycheck. And it's not, I know there are misconceptions about like you being prescribed a job by the federal government, and it's not. It's just that there would be jobs that are there for you, guaranteeing you a livable wage if you ever needed one. And it would allow a lot of people to leave abusive work situations, and it would allow people to leave domestic abuse situations as well. And in a crisis like this, it would give a lot of us answers and peace of mind knowing that there's something waiting for me on the other side of this.
Absolutely. I mean, some states, like my state of Pennsylvania, they're talking about opening up May 8th. That's soon. A lot of these people have no job to go back to. If we had a job, a federal job guarantee, I cannot fathom how much that would change their lives.
Totally.
And speaking of a federal job guarantee, I know that another thing you went on Steve's show and discussed with him is MMT. I know we very loosely touched on that the first time, but you're becoming a total pro at it. So, how does that? And I noticed you put it in your posts and stuff. How are you how's that going with explaining it to people? Because I know sometimes it's hard for them to grasp.
Yeah, I know. Personally, I'm being completely honest. When I said the first time that I learned about MMT, I'm like, what the hell? I don't know if I'm allowed to swear on here, but what the hell is it? But I heard it as we can just prune all the money we want. And that's not what it is at all. It's a way to describe what we're already doing. It's we spend and we don't think about taxing back for things like war. And the thing is, pay-go is a lie. It's bullshit. And I know my opponent has supported it. But we don't need to tax $1 back for every dollar we spend. It doesn't affect us negatively. In fact, when we have a deficit in the federal government, I don't know why we see that as a bad thing as people, because that means there's more cash floating around in the private economy. It's not our problem that the federal government is spending too much, and it also doesn't negatively affect them. Not like our priority should not be the federal government's wallet, because they do have the ability to coin additional currency if it comes to that. And I know people like Rashida Tlaib are talking about minting the coin, which I fully support as well. But the thing is, we deficit spend for things like war. And I mentioned that means that we have a surplus in the private economy. It's not a great thing if we have a surplus in the private economy if it's only going to weapons manufacturers and defense contractors. So that's what we've been doing, and we've been fed lies by our representatives who are saying, we can't afford this and that. But have you ever noticed that they only say that whenever it comes to things that empower us? So I know I've been having a 4-month battle with my health insurance company, and I also realized that I'm fortunate to even have health insurance. But they're a real damn pain, and I can't get my prescription medicine covered so that my hair doesn't fall out of my head. And that's a society that we live in, and we should all be furious about it, and even more furious when we realize that the federal government can spend all they need to spend to make sure that none of us are worried about our medical bills, but they have chosen not to because we are not a priority.
Absolutely. I mean, I lost 78% of my eyesight last year, so I'm legally blind. My treatments are $12,000 a month. It doesn't matter. they just fight tooth and nail. That's not medically necessary. Like, I can't see. What do you mean it's not medically necessary? They'll say and do anything. And this is a very good insurance. It's really incredible. Now the person you're running against, the incumbent, a Democrat, is not, essentially. Now at this point, is it just you and the incumbent, or are there still others?
Yeah, there's still somebody who ran last time that I had a lot of issues with, hence me running. It's somebody who ran last time. He's a hotel mogul and is 97% funded by big dollars, and just had a lot of controversy. I recommend Googling it. I won't waste your time by going into it, but a lot of things that I really, if someone's going to replace our incumbent, it's not going to be him, and I'm fighting for that.
Awesome. Well, do you think that, are things looking promising as far as, because you're very loved online. Your campaign has blown up since the last time we spoke. I'm so proud of you. Like, it's really just grown enormously. Do you think there is promise in the phone calls you have and stuff? Because I know canvassing is just one of the best tools, and it's so frustrating we can't utilize that.
Yeah, I'm humbled every single day, and I see things coming together that I have very little to do with. Quite honestly, like, my team meets, and I'm sitting there. I'm in the apartment with my partner, who's very heavily involved as well, and I hear them just like working through stuff, and I'm just like floored at the talent that I'm surrounded by. And I know that we're calling through the district 9 times out of 10, people don't know who's representing them right now. And that's pretty sad, given the fact that she's been in office for 26 years. If I spend 26 years in office and my district doesn't know who I am, please fire me. Just get me out of there. I will feel like such a failure. And so many of our representatives are in that position as well. I know that Ocasio-Cortez is our neighbor. I'm in New York's 12th. She's in New York's 14th. And the fact that she's been able to make something like the Green New Deal part of everyday conversation, we all know, all the listeners, you, we all know what that is. I can't think of a single thing that's come out of this district. And I think in East Manhattan, Western Queens, and North Brooklyn, we're pretty cool, spunky people. We deserve to be leaders in the progressive scene. So I'm really running totally unafraid to be a really annoying vocal leader, fighting for us. I'm not going to stop. And if you don't know who I am, I'm going to come knock on your door, because that's what I've been doing since last March until the coronavirus, and now I'm calling. So
right on. It's before we started, we were actually talking about corona and just kind of the detriment it's been putting on people psychologically and everything. And we were saying that campaigning is just so different during this. Like, when I volunteered in Iowa for 5 weeks, I knocked on hundreds of doors in the snow and sleet, mind you. But now it's like, okay, Pennsylvania's voting, let me go. Oh, wait, never mind, that's over with. So do you think, and also with them threatening the ballot, taking Bernie off, no, that wouldn't affect you totally, but it would affect you in the sense that a lot of people won't vote if there's no president on the ballot. I think that would hurt the lower, candidates.
Yeah, I know, like I'm a huge Bernie fan. I have been inspired to even get involved because of him. I changed to be a Democratic Party member because of him. Unfortunately, I was too late, and I was one of the people that missed my opportunity to vote in the 2016 primary because New York had that crazy law that you had to change parties months and months ahead of time. Thankfully, that's changed. But anyway, I just want to be able to vote for Bernie effing Sanders on June 23rd and be on the same ballot as him. And I know my fellow New Yorkers worked really hard to get him on the ballot, and people worked really hard to become delegates. And I also just want us to have the opportunity to use our voices.
I just got goosebumps when you said be on the same ballot as him. I'm like, oh my God, I would die. Like, that is the coolest thing. Like, how proud are you?
I mean, I will have a breakdown. That's another thing is like, for also like purely selfish reasons, like I will have a mini breakdown when I receive the mail-in ballot and our names are on the same piece of paper. Because it's like a once in a lifetime, like, and also I know like a little off topic, but I also wanted to thank you for everything you've done for the movement. And we all know it continues with us and all of the listeners too. Like all of the work that you did and Bernie has done has inspired, and it will go forward and grow. So thank you for all you've done, and like I'm not going anywhere.
So much.
Of course.
I wouldn't change it. The whole process has been very hard on all of us. You know, this man was our hope, and we got to keep going. But this is a very traumatic time. But with that, one of the ways we keep our revolution going is with Bernie-crack candidates. So, you know, one of the biggest issues with people, of course, is Medicare for all. And I already know the answers to this, but do your two opponents support Medicare for all?
Like, yes, like, yeah, I think on pieces of paper they do, but I know the other challenger that is in the race with me in town halls talks about like his plan to compromise on Medicare for all by proposing Medicare for kids. And I'm like, what the hell? I don't have kids. I mean, I have cats, but like, where's my Medicare for all? Everyone needs to make sure that you can go to the doctor and not end up with a lifetime worth of debt, regardless of your family situation. So like, stop with starting with compromises. And it's one of my pet peeves in general with politics is the Republican Party starts with like extremist positions and doesn't flinch. And so often we, even like progressives, start with compromises. And I'm like, what are you doing? Like we should start with like really, really leftist positions. And then somewhere in the middle, if I end up with a compromise, like I'm going to be happy, but I'll keep pushing for it to be further left and I'll annoy everyone around me. But why are you starting with a compromise? I don't have a kid. I want Medicare for all. Thanks.
Yeah, exactly. Same. Like, and besides, like, kids can have CHIP and Medicaid and stuff. Like, there's no, you know, I worked in that for years. There's not monetary constraints, at least in PA. Whereas for adults, I wouldn't even try to apply because my husband works and I know how that, you know, the way that works out. I'm seeing, let's see, Jeffrey said, oh yeah, Jeffrey said he can only imagine what the media would have done if Bernie said to go out and vote in the pandemic. The thing that's so weird about this whole petition and everything is like, you guys are doing mail-in voting this time. So what the hell does it matter whose name is on the ballot? That's what, I don't know if they're like trying to push it as like more people will come out, which makes it more dangerous, but it's going to be mail-in. So
yeah, no, there's really like, they've set it up so that it's very clear that there's no real purpose to this other than to silence our voices for the national platform. So we tried to make that very clear in our petition, and also the fact that we're not going anywhere. Like, I am not going anywhere, and I will continue to make a huge stink of this. So the best thing to do is to just let us use our voice and our votes and our rights. And no harm, no foul. We'll continue and deal with the next issue together.
I'll send Cuomo's ass an email and say, guess what? You don't let people vote in the primary. Watch out for all the ones who write in Bernie in the general then. Like, you really want to fuck with us? Because that's exactly what's going to happen.
That's another thing that, like, totally. I know that, like, Bernie supporters get blamed a lot for 2016. And I just want to say, like, one of the things that I'm also pushing for is, like, it looks like Joe Biden's going to be the nominee. And I consider it my job and my duty now to continue to push whoever the nominee is to the left. And I get a lot of hate from like corporate type Democrats that are like, hey, he doesn't want Medicare for all. Stop it, you Trump supporter. And I'm just like, you know what? I will get called whatever names people think of, like, the more creative, the better. But if I save people's lives by getting some form of Medicare for all on the national platform, then I'm fine with it. I will sleep very well at night.
Absolutely. It's really interesting because the only people who would ever get mad at us suggesting things like that are privileged or ignorant. Like, one of those, because you see the people who are like, oh my God, that's so sad. And then, but they support Biden. No, which is it? So yeah, I mean, you're not, as trite as it is, you are not doing anything right if people aren't hating on you. Like, that's just social media 101. And I'm
totally.
A lot of haters.
Congratulations. I know, and, like, ironically also, trolling our posts helps our social media engagement. So I wanted to sincerely thank you.
Yeah, exactly. Look, I have even more comments. Yes.
Totally.
One of the other things you've been for since day one is free college tuition. And especially now, since so many people are losing their jobs, it's kind of imperative that, that this would be taking place. Now, Biden did say, that now he's, like, opening to, like, $120 and less free college, things like that. But as far as your district goes, are you finding that the people you're speaking with are down with that?
Yes. It's very rare that anybody I ever come in contact with in New York's 12th Congressional District is against Medicare for all, the Green New Deal, or abolishing student debt. All three of those are just really, really, it's a given here. And I hope that we can finally have representation that reflects that. And the fact that so many people don't even know who the representative is, it's like, let's do this. Like, let's send someone to Congress who will not shut up about these priorities that everyone wants. The majority of Americans want Medicare for all, so let's do it. What's the problem?
Absolutely. I know you've been working on some legislation yourself through your campaign. So what is some of that you're working on?
Yeah, so we're tackling two different issues right now with two policies that we've released. So the first is that my opponent voted in 2005 for the House version of the bill that required the United States Postal Service to have decades worth of retirement set aside for its workers. And it's the only agency to have that kind of requirement. And it's putting the USPS in financial ruin, as was the plan of the Republican Party, who wants to privatize it and make a bunch of profit off of charging us like $80 to send a letter to our grandma. So I am reversing that bill with my policy, and also implementing things like postal banking so that we have a public option and that people in rural areas are able to get the help that they need and the banking services that they need, because so many people are underbanked or bankless. And that would also help to strengthen the USPS. And this is not the first time that it's come up. It has provided banking services in the past, and this is going back to our roots. And the other thing is providing the relief, the cash relief that it needs right now to get back to where it needs to be financially so that it's not struggling. Because it's had to set aside its revenue for so long, it's just put it in a place that its infrastructure is crumbling and it's so far behind financially and just really hanging off a cliff. So we do need to provide relief, get rid of the bill that is, further preventing its success. And let's forget about the idea of privatizing a federal agency. That's ludicrous. We know exactly how privatization works. And I spent 4 months trying to get my prescription covered with my private health insurance company. So I don't want that kind of relationship with my post office. And the other bill that we have is to make sure that, I know you've seen it, probably a lot of the viewers have seen it, but a lot of our senators and representatives have profited off of COVID-19. And we saw that, for example, Loeffler in Georgia sold a bunch of stocks, purchased a bunch of Amazon and a bunch of safety equipment type stocks while she had non-public information. And it points in the direction of insider trading. And she's not the only one. There's a whole bunch of representatives that have some really fishy trades and sales right around the time that they knew that COVID-19 was going to be a really big deal for the global economy. And so
Einstein was one of them.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And so we have a bill that requires like a policy that would require that all representatives place their investments in a blind trust so that you aren't able to see what you're even invested in. Somebody else is managing it, like a financial advisor, somebody who is responsible but isn't going to turn around. And it would be illegal for them to tell you what's in your portfolio and make trading decisions based on what you know that we don't know. And I know, I've worked in the financial sector in my past, and as a project manager in a bank who had no insider information as to what was happening with stocks, I also had to put my 401k in a managed account, and I couldn't do anything with it. And that was fine. Actually, I don't know what I'm doing. And it took that stress away from something that I have no business managing. And you know what? Everyone should do that. And no one should even have that temptation of knowing that a huge global crisis is coming and dumping all of the stocks and making a profit off of our suffering.
Absolutely. And the fact that that is not illegal is what's mind-blowing, because everyone's like, oh, arrest them, but it's not illegal, unfortunately. Somebody in the comments is talking about ranked choice voting. That is something you support, correct?
Wholeheartedly. And I know, I am not the only challenger in my race. And if we had something like ranked choice voting, it actually makes that not a big deal at all. And with third parties and, just making it, let's amplify our voice. If you want to rank all the people in the order that you support them in, that's your voice. So I don't understand any arguments against it, really. I wholeheartedly support ranked choice voting.
Yeah, I've interviewed people who have it, and it really seems to be advantageous for progressives, because even if they're not first choice, they're always second.
Yep.
Let's see. It's my favorite new candidate.
Oh, thank you.
White says.
Thank you.
Let's see here. So something else I have down is you are, where'd this go? Oh, so as far as Green New Deal, what are the specifics that you're most looking forward to? What are you most passionate about?
Yeah, so my district, New York's 12th Congressional District, is really an epicenter for the climate crisis. And we surround the East River. Like if you look at a map and where the East River is, it's like if you draw a circle around the river, that's my district. And so our water is rising at 1.5 times the rate of everywhere else on the globe. And we feel every single bit of the climate crisis. And the other thing I want to point out is we have fossil fuel burning power plants in our district. And unsurprisingly, they're right next to public housing complexes. And that's how it is. It's polluting the air and making these communities so much less healthy. And I also support the Green New Deal for public housing because I spend a lot of time, Queensbridge is my neighbor, and I literally see it when I'm looking out the window. And I spend time there with my community members, and I see the leaks and the infestations and that the elevators don't work and just the utter state of disrepair that they live in. And what we need to do is not only make sure that they are living in dignity and are living in a high quality environment, but if we can make sure that all of our public housing is sustainable as well and not negatively impacting our environment, then why the heck not? And again, that does go back. I know people are still commenting about MMT. We have the money. We can do it. It just has to be our federal budget is our priorities. That's not what we can afford. So we have the money to make sure that we move in the direction as quickly as possible towards 100% renewable energy. And the Green New Deal also comes with jobs and making sure that our infrastructure is green and renewable, and that we have a shrinking window of time that we have to work with here, and there isn't making up for it later. We either do it now, we do it right, or generations to come will pay the price. And so the Green New Deal to me is just finally addressing the seriousness of this problem with the urgency that's required. And to go even further, I'm calling to nationalize public transit and make it free.
Yes.
So that we're incentivizing people using the greenest method of transportation possible. And also in New York City, people get arrested for not having $2.75 for the subway. So let's, accomplish multiple things at once. It's a criminal justice issue as well.
Yeah, I mean, as someone who can't drive because of being visually impaired, like that would be life-changing for anyone who's disabled or anything to have free transportation like that. Like, I just can't even fathom.
Yes.
Also, what you were describing about the lower income and people of color who are being affected by climate, like it sounds like those areas you're describing are going to lead to climate refugees.
Yes, absolutely. And that's another thing is I know there's a lot of xenophobia, and Trump is calling to stop immigration totally. And the thing is, we have contributed to global warming and a lot. And we've also contributed to destabilizing entire regions all over the globe. And the fact that people are fleeing their homes that they have family in, and that it's the only place they know, and they're leaving their mother language and everything that they love because they're forced to. And so whenever we shut our borders to people who are fleeing danger, we're shutting the borders for people who are fleeing danger that we have helped to create. And so that's why I'm really standing against shutting down immigration. And I also am just fighting to abolish ICE and make sure that we're not criminalizing people who are seeking a life here.
Absolutely. Something else that, Bernie was very passionate about, and all of us are, is DACA. Is that something that you would want to restore?
Absolutely. Yeah, and just along with not criminalizing crossing our borders to seek a life here and not putting people in cages, DACA is highlighting the fact that so many people come here and it wasn't even their choice. And this country is all they know. And I'm going to say I'm unfortunate to have been to an ICE facility and seen it with my own eyes. I'm fortunate to have had that experience, but unfortunate as in like nobody should ever see that because it shouldn't exist. And I met somebody who was picked up on the side of the street and put in this facility, and he doesn't know anyone back in the country where he's from. He doesn't speak the language. All of his family is here, but right now he's sitting in an ICE detention center in New Jersey waiting to be deported because that's the country that we live in. And he doesn't know anyone back there, and it breaks my heart. I honestly think about him a lot when like sometimes when I'm trying to fall asleep, and I think about the fact that he might be in a country he has no idea what's going on around him, and it's truly heartbreaking. I come from an immigrant family myself, and my grandma was from Japan and faced a lot of xenophobia. We're seeing that xenophobia very strongly right now against the Asian community. And I can't say that the stories that she told me growing up, I can't say that we're any better right now. And that's really shameful. And we can't just continue to have passive leaders that are like, oh no, like this happened in my community, don't do it. But we need like really anti-racist leaders that stand up against this, legislate against hate, defund and abolish ICE, and move us in a direction of making sure that we welcome people for the Americans that they are.
Absolutely. I digress a bit, but yesterday was 420, so it's only fitting on your stance of legalization.
Yes. Well, sorry, I had to plug my laptop in. But yesterday I live streamed myself smoking CBD while I made brownies. So no, I am totally
You're against it. No, just
it's such a no, it's not a gateway drug. That's another thing that we should all just be infuriated about, is the fact that the war on drugs is racist. That's what it is. It's based on racism. It's about how can we put as many brown people in prison and make a profit off of them being in a cage. How can we do that as much as possible? That's what the war on drug is. And we see that when we know that white people and people of color use cannabis at the same rates. But why do people of color get incarcerated exponentially more? It doesn't make any sense other than the fact that it's based on racism. And I am for fully legalizing cannabis. I'm for decriminalizing all drug usage. But in terms of cannabis, we have to make sure that we expunge the records of people who have been wrongfully incarcerated. And all of the tax revenue should be used first and foremost as a freaking apology to make sure that we can make amends for wrongfully incarcerating people. We need to help them get started in life. They haven't been able to have a job or buy a home or rent a home or anything. So we need to give them money to get started again. And then also, secondarily, we need to make sure that we're helping communities of color with that money, because they've been the ones most affected by these policies.
Absolutely. And, speaking of prison, we're seeing so many places, including New York, where these prisons people are dying left and right from COVID. And they are for these, crimes like you're mentioning. I mean, they're stuck in these places, and for what? And they're not being let out, even though it's a public health risk.
Yeah. And how do we live in a country where your doctor can write you a prescription for medical marijuana, but if you use a little bit of it, you can go to prison? Like, I don't understand. The other thing is, we keep treating prison like it would be a rehab. And prison is not a rehab. Prison is prison. And if we want people to have rehabilitation services, then we should be fighting for Medicare for all, which should include it. So I don't understand why we have this obsession with putting people in cages. It's very punitive, arbitrary, and racist, when we should instead be making sure that we're helping people. And addiction is not a crime, and we should stop treating it as such, and prison is not a rehab, period.
Absolutely. I was reading information from other countries, and they give free treatment, and the recidivism rate is like nothing in those countries. And
yeah,
like, it's really not rocket science. It's so unfortunate. Let's see. I live in Northern California. I'm so jelly of those of you in New York who can vote for Lauren Ashcraft.
That's awesome. I saw that Cats likes MMT. I have 2 cats, and I also like MMT, so thank you.
Oh, you guys are awesome.
No, I was really nervous to read the comments the first time I was on the show, and I went back and did it because you told me they were really nice, and they were really nice. So you got some good watchers in this show.
My first, now I've done over 300 shows, so I'm like, whatever, be a dick. I don't, I don't care. But my first several shows, I mean, I was like popping out of it, my knees were shaking, and I'm like, whatever, I'll just block them. But yeah, I mean, they're so incredible. Kat said you're soulmates now.
Awesome. Follow @VoteAshcraft for more cat content.
Yeah, let's just make a meme with like cats and just put like the little word bubble. Vote Ashcraft, MMT.
That's awesome.
Oh, Mark said he's trying to type with his cat on the keyboard.
That's so funny. That's awesome.
What do you want to leave our viewers with? What do you want them to take away? And also, before I forget, please, please, please sign that petition. I know we've met the 2,000. Keep signing it. It's in the comments for those who join later. But anyway, Lauren, what did you want to leave with the viewers to take away about this race?
Actually, like, we were chatting before the show went live, and we were talking about like how all of this is affecting people mentally. And one of the things that I promised myself I would always do is to just be really open with people. I myself have general anxiety disorder, and there was like a period of like 3 or 4 days where I just like couldn't get out of bed last week. And I thought I was sick. Like, I was like, maybe I should go to the doctor for coronavirus. And then I realized that just the stress of knowing that thousands of people around me are dying, and that our country is in such a crisis, and running for Congress in the middle of it, I was like, you know what, Lauren, your body is feeling this. And whenever I talk about it, I get a lot of messages from people who are like, I felt the same thing and I thought I was sick, and like, thank you for raising awareness about it. So I just wanted, if there's anybody who's listening that is like wondering if you're normal for feeling the same thing, you absolutely are. It's a really traumatic time to be locked inside. I know in New York City, we're locked into really small apartments and we don't have like porches or anything to go on. And you're normal and we're all in this together. And it's a very traumatic thing to lose jobs and to not be able to see your family in person and to have everything change. And I just want to say that I can really see like the strength and the love of the Not Me Us community continuing, because I see a lot of like the mutual aid and people checking in on each other. People have checked in on me and I'm just like, oh, no, I'm fine, guys, thanks. But like, it's such a loving community and we're all there for each other. And I just wanted people to know, like, I'm here for you too. You're normal. We're in this together. And yeah, I think that's really what I wanted to say. And if you want kind of more interaction with people, we are doing a lot of phone banking right now, and I feel really good about it because we're turning, it's not just phone banking, it's wellness checks. So each of our calls starts with just a check-in with whoever is on the other line and making sure they're okay and have everything they need. And if they don't, then we get them the groceries they're requesting, we deliver them toilet paper that they're requesting, we get the medicine that is sitting for them at the pharmacy, and the movement continues. So if you're interested in that, act.laurenashcraft.com is how you sign up for a shift, and we'll get you all trained up. And that's also where we have a lot of our virtual events too. So on Mondays, I cook live on camera. On Wednesdays, I have like a Q&A session, town hall. And on Saturdays, I play video games live on Twitch. And this, Paul, what's the name of that game? Parkosaurus?
Parkosaurus.
Yeah, I'm playing Parkosaurus and continuing to make a dinosaur park. So sign up, RSVP for any of that stuff, sign up for shifts with us, and we'll continue to fight for people we don't know together.
Absolutely. You got to join Peter Douche, aka Nate Sliver, and I one night. We do that game, and I can't think of what it's called, where you have a question and you give an answer, and then people have to choose between the two answers, which is more like perverse. And
I love it.
It gets hilarious because everyone in it is burners, so it's usually like just total disses on near a tandon and stuff. It's fun. It's really
God.
I
would love to join.
I'll send
it. Yes, I would go.
The next one is Monday. So
cool. Oh, I love it. See, this is what I'm talking about, is we find really fun, cool ways to stay connected and stay united, and we're not going anywhere.
Hell no. We try to keep each other sane for sure.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for coming back. I adore you. I am so proud of everything you've done, and you're kicking ass. Just thank you.
Thank you. And you're raising so much awareness and just really carrying this movement forward. And same with all of the viewers too. So thank all of you. Check me out at laurenashcraft.com. Stay in touch. I'm at Vote Ashcraft on all the social media. So at me and stay in touch.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Much love to everyone. I have like insane guests coming up. I have Eric Blanc on Monday. He's a socialist writer. I have Luke Savage is coming back. I have Micah from Jacobin. I have Russ Sarasoni coming back. I have Jen Perlman running against DWS coming back. I just have like a ridiculous amount of awesome guests coming. So definitely stay tuned. Oh, and I'm going back on the Humanist Report, and I have a huge announcement when I'm there. No, I'm not pregnant, but it's going to be worth the wait.
That's amazing. I love the Humanist Report too. Two of my favorite podcasters.
Oh my God. Mike is just my hero. I just love him to pieces. So yeah, I always get excited to go on there. So I will keep you guys updated with that date. Again, thank you all so much for watching, and thank you, Lauren. Best of luck.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely.